Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miochin. You're watching A News. Here are the headlines. Donald Trump restates plan for the U.S. to take over the Gaza Strip after strong reactions worldwide. Heavy clashes continue in eastern Congo despite a ceasefire. Turkey honors the victims of a deadly earthquake in 2023. U.S. President Donald Trump doubled down on his plan to take over the Gaza Strip and resettle Palestinians in other countries. This comes after he faced backlash from leaders and organizations from all around the world.
The United Nations European leaders, China and Brazil, are opposed to U.S. President Donald Trump's plan to take over Gaza and resettle Palestinians elsewhere. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres urged President Trump to avoid actions that could lead to forced displacement in Gaza, stressing the need to uphold international law and the need for a two-state solution.
We must reaffirm the two-state solution. Any durable peace will require tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress toward the two-state solution, an end to the occupation, and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with Gaza as an integral part.
German President Walter Steinmeier called Trump's suggestion unacceptable, expressing deep concern over the proposal's potential to cause further instability in the region. Meanwhile, China's government voiced strong opposition to the forced relocation of Gaza residents, reiterating their support for a political settlement based on the two-state solution. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva dismisses Trump's vision for Gaza as expansionist and calling it an example of bravado by the US. Egypt stressed the need for reconstruction without moving the Palestinians. Saudi Arabia rejected any attempts to displace the Palestinians from their land, reiterating it would not normalize ties with Israel without the establishment of a Palestinian state. Moscow and Beijing both cited the two-state solution as the right track, with Russia saying that it's the only possible option. Hamas says Trump's plan would put oil on the fire in the region. However, Netanyahu defends Trump's proposal, suggesting there was nothing wrong with allowing Gazans who want to leave to do so temporarily.
Come back, they can relocate and come back, but you have to rebuild Gaza. If you want to rebuild Gaza, you can't have... this is the first good idea that I've heard. It's a remarkable idea, and I think it should be really pursued, examined, pursued, and done, because I think it will create a different future for everyone.
Protests erupted globally, including across the United States, where people gathered in solidarity with Palestinians. Protest organizers criticized the US government for what they saw as escalating repression and colonization in Palestine. Trump's controversial proposal suggested US control over Gaza following the relocation of Palestinians. Trump envisioned transforming the region into a Riviera of the Middle East. Trump's Gaza plan announcement comes after the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas came into effect on January 19th, halting a 15-month war.
Protests continued in the U.S. with hundreds gathering in Los Angeles and other cities against Trump's executive orders, including his immigration crackdown, a rollback of transgender rights, as well as his proposal for Gaza.
Hundreds of protesters gathered outside Los Angeles City Hall on Wednesday for a fourth day against US President Donald Trump's latest policies. They're opposed to most of his new executive orders, including the crackdown on immigration, transgender rights, and his recent plans for Gaza. The rally was part of a nationwide protest organised by the 50,501 movement. Demonstrators say they want to make a stand against Trump.
I've seen a lot of hatred, whether it be towards trans, LGBTQ, Latinos, all types of communities have been there's just so much bias and hatred out there. I've been a victim of it. And I thought this was a perfect moment. History is being made right in front of me. I will come out here and I'll stand for what I believe in.
In 2016, we didn't know what he was really going to do in office, but now we know. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I can't understand how he got elected. I can't understand how people are okay with this. And I hope that people will start to push back before it's too late.
Demonstrators are demanding a defense of democracy and reject Trump's policies. As well as criticizing the president, some protesters also targeted billionaire Elon Musk, who heads Trump's new Department of Government Efficiency.
Panamanian President José Raúl Mulino has denied the U.S. State Department's claim that his country had reached a deal with the U.S., allowing U.S. warships to transit the Panama Canal for free. Mulino said he had told U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth that he could neither set the fees to transit the canal nor exempt anyone from them, and that he was surprised by the U.S. State Department's statement suggesting otherwise. On Wednesday evening, the U.S. State Department said in a post on X that U.S. government vessels can now transit the Panama Canal without charge fees. Mourners gathered in Örebro to remember victims of Sweden's worst mass shooting. The attack at an adult education center on Tuesday left 11 people dead and many more injured.
Sweden's King Carl XVI Gustaf and Queen Silvia led the country in mourning as they laid flowers at the makeshift memorial near the school in Örebro that saw 11 people killed Tuesday afternoon, including the shooter. The mass shooting happened at the Risberska Adult Education Center. At least 6 people were injured, some of them with gunshot wounds. The country showed their respect with flowers and candles.
It felt stable until I saw the last post-conference when they said there were 10 dead. Then I think my mood changed quite a bit and I got sad.
The local chief of police says that the attacker was a 35-year-old unemployed recluse named Rickard Andersson. They say he appealed to have acted alone.
When we arrived at the scene, the officers felt that they have been fired upon by this perpetrator. And what happens is that when we then advance towards this perpetrator, the person is found dead. He probably shot himself. There is much to suggest that it is a solitary act, and that is the picture we have right now. But we look very broadly to see if there could be several perpetrators.
The tragic event has left people living locally in shock.
At first it didn't sound as bad as it was, but eventually my daughter started calling and asking me if I'd been nearby, and then I realized there were more than just a few injured people, so it was terrible all day.
Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson says that February the 4th will forever mark as a dark day. Flags flew at half-mast at the Parliament and the Royal Palace in Stockholm to remember the victims.
Russia's defense ministry says it's conducting stealth drills with its Yars intercontinental ballistic missiles in the Volga region. The nuclear missiles, which can be moved on trucks or deployed in silos, are a key part of Russia's defense strategy. The ministry says the missiles are camouflaged and moving up to 100 kilometers on combat patrol routes. Similar drills were held last year as a warning to the West. A fierce winter storm hit the Gaza Strip overnight. Despite the damage, residents remain determined to stay, following U.S. President Donald Trump's controversial announcement on their future.
A powerful storm struck Gaza, unleashing heavy rain and widespread flooding that destroyed tents sheltering displaced families in the early hours of Thursday. Many residents struggled to cope with the extreme conditions.
There was a storm last night, and people are staying under the rubble, under destroyed houses and inside tents. The children were dying of cold, and we haven't slept all night from the winter, the cold, and the rain. Rain entered inside tents. We haven't slept at all.
While U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement has raised uncertainty, Gazans are determined to stay despite the challenges.
We are steadfast in our land. They destroyed our houses and killed our children, but we are steadfast. We are saying this so the Palestinians would be aware. Don't say I want to emigrate. You are here till the end of days. Stay in a tent next to your house, and God willing, things will be solved soon.
In the aftermath of the storm, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz ordered the army to prepare for the voluntary departure of Gaza residents. However, the situation remains tense in Gaza as hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians return to their heavily damaged homes.
Displaced Palestinians in Jabalia are struggling with a severe water shortage, forced to travel long distances to access dwindling supplies. With most water wells destroyed, families face immense challenges in securing the vital resource.
In the aftermath of the recent conflict, displaced Palestinians returning to Jabalia are grappling with a severe water shortage, a pressing challenge in a region already fraught with hardship.
We travel long distances and I look after 8 people. I need at least 1,000 litres every day to sort my affairs. How do I get these 1,000 litres? I get them like I'm carrying this 20 litres gallon. Every day from morning until night, I keep on transporting water. This is only for water. It's okay, I mean, this is our fate.
As Shahad Al-Qudi walks with a jerry can, his daily struggle embodies the plight of countless families. Before the conflict escalated on October 7th, Jabalia had 30 large wells, each capable of producing 100 cubic meters of water per hour. Tragically, around 25 of these wells were destroyed, drastically reducing the community's access to these essential resources.
In Jabalia, there are 30 large wells. Unfortunately, approximately 25 wells were totally destroyed, and there are only 5 wells remaining that are in working condition that can produce water.
The limited functioning wells struggle to meet the needs of the population, forcing many to dig makeshift wells. However, this desperate measure raises alarms about the potential depletion of the groundwater resources.
Frequent digging of wells could also cause damage to the groundwater reserve in light of scarce rain, high withdrawals. This raises concerns of a major disaster of the lack of groundwater reserves.
Shaher reflects on how their lives have changed dramatically since the war began.
We used to bathe twice a day. Now this boy bathes once a week if he's lucky. The situation is tough, very tough. The children cannot bathe. The lack of bathing also results in diseases and insects and big problems.
People can be seen queuing for hours, waiting for their turn to fill their jerry cans, a stark reminder of the water crisis' toll on daily life.
Currently, people are provided with water through wells, but these wells also need fuel to operate them. The occupation is currently preventing the entry of sufficient fuel to operate the wells.
An update from the UN Humanitarian Office in January indicates that less than a quarter of pre-war water supplies are now available to Palestinians. The humanitarian situation remains critical, with families facing immense challenges in their efforts to survive amidst the remnants of their former lives.
Heavy clashes continue in eastern Congo, despite a ceasefire announced earlier this week. The UN says fighting between Congolese forces and M23 rebels has intensified.
On the streets of Goma in eastern Congo, life continues, but beneath the surface, fear is growing. A ceasefire that was meant to bring relief has instead given way to more violence. The United Nations now confirms intense fighting in South Kivu, with the M23 rebels advancing towards Bukavu, just 50 kilometers away. The rebel group, backed by Rwanda, has already taken control of Nibawi, a key mining town rich in gold and coltan. The latest escalation has displaced thousands and left parts of Goma under M23's control.
In Goma, we remain under occupation. The situation is still highly volatile, with a persistent risk of escalation. All exit routes from Goma are under their control, and the airport, also under M23 control, is closed until further notice.
As the humanitarian toll rises, reports of mass casualties are emerging.
So far, 2,000 bodies have been collected from the Goma streets in recent days, and 900 bodies remain in the morgues of the Goma hospitals. We do not think that number would not go up. We expect this number to go up. And there's still many decomposing bodies in certain areas.
With no end in sight, the international community is watching closely, while civilians in eastern Congo brace for what comes next.
At least 40 children have been killed across just 3 days in 3 separate areas of Sudan. UNICEF called it a stark example of the threats facing young people in the war-torn country.
At least 40 children were killed in shelling across 3 regions of Sudan in a span of 3 days, according to UNICEF. The deaths occurred in Kadugli, El Fasher and Khartoum. In Kadugli, 21 children were killed on Monday during armed clashes between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. On Sunday evening, 11 children died in shelling on a market in El Fasher, while 8 children were killed in a similar attack on a Khartoum market on Saturday. The fighting between the Sudanese Armed Forces and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces began on April 15, 2023 in Khartoum and has since spread to other parts of the country. The violence has resulted in over 29,700 deaths and displaced more than 12.4 million people. UNICEF's Sudan representative, Anne-Marie Swai, stated that the conflict is posing a growing threat to children in Sudan. She called on all parties involved to comply with international humanitarian law and protect civilians, particularly children. The ongoing violence has targeted civilian areas, including markets and residential zones, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis in the country.
Today marks the 2nd anniversary of the deadliest earthquake in the history of Turkey. All over the country, people held ceremonies in remembrance of over 50,000 people who lost their lives.
2 years ago, a devastating earthquake struck Turkey, killing more than 50,000 people and leaving hundreds of thousands displaced. The 7.8 magnitude tremor rattled 11 provinces in Turkey's southeast, as well as parts of northern Syria. The earthquake shattered entire cities, reducing homes, hospitals, and landmarks to rubble. Cities such as Hatay, Antakya, Adıyaman, and Kahramanmaraş were among the hardest hit. In Antakya, residents gathered at 4:17 a.m., marking the exact time the earthquake struck to honor the memory of victims. In Hatay province, the streets were filled with people chanting and pledging never to forget the victims of the disaster. Despite significant restoration efforts, Hatay is still to completely recover from the results of a devastating disaster. Other cities, including Adıyaman, also saw large gatherings where residents marched through the streets and held ceremonies at local squares. In terms of recovery, the government has made progress in rebuilding efforts, with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reporting that over 201,000 housing units have been delivered to survivors in less than 2 years since the quake. The government has pledged to complete the construction of 650,000 homes by the end of 2025, with significant investments poured into the affected regions. However, despite the progress, many survivors continue to face challenges, and aid groups warn that it is necessary to continue recovery efforts.
Azerbaijan has officially ordered the closure of the Russian Information and Cultural Center, known as the Russian House, which operates under the Russian agency Rossotrudnichestvo. According to the Azerbaijani Foreign Ministry, the decision was made after authorities found the center was not legally registered and had repeatedly violated national laws. A diplomatic note was sent to Russia on February 3rd, formally terminating its activities. The move follows Azerbaijan's recent decision to suspend USAID operations. Kyrgyzstan is making it easier for people to remove Russian-style endings from their surnames. Other Central Asian countries like Tajikistan and Kazakhstan have also encouraged traditional names to preserve national identity. Our Fariza Kalimurzina talked to the people of Almaty on the subject.
Citizens of Kyrgyzstan who want to get rid of the suffixes of "yev" in their surnames will no longer face many problems. Deputies approved amendments to the law in the first reading. The draft law provides for the addition of new spelling options for the surname and patronymic. When writing their surname for the grandfather's name, the word "olo" for male children and the word "kızı" for female children are added to the name of the child's father at the request of the parents. The day before, it was reported that the Speaker of the Kyrgyz Parliament, Nurlanbek Shakiyev, changed his last name and became Turgunbek Ulu Nurlanbek. With the independence of Kyrgyzstan in the early 90s, citizens began to give children traditional Kyrgyz names and surnames using the words Ulu and Kızı, which literally means son or daughter. In 2017, more than 33,000 Kyrgyz residents changed their first and last names. The most common change was the transition from Slavic forms of surnames to Kyrgyz, with the abandonment of the suffixes of and "yev." Similar process began to gain momentum in Tajikistan in 2007 when President Emomali Rahmon, formerly Emomali Rahmonov, shortened his last name, setting an example to fellow citizens. And in 2020, Tajikistan completely banned the registration of children with Slavic suffixes in surnames and middle names. Tajik government explained that the measures were taken in order to strengthen the national identity of citizens and protect cultural identity. As for Uzbekistan, the process in this country is still fraught with excessive paperwork. In Kazakhstan, persons of Kazakh nationality have the right, at their request, to change the spelling of their surnames and patronymics, with the exception of affixes unusual in the Kazakh language, but with the preservation of the root basis of surnames and patronymics. The presidential decree on this matter was issued back in 1996. In general, in modern Kazakh society, the tendency to return to Kazakh names and surnames is becoming more pronounced. From Almaty, Kazakhstan, Fariza Kalimurzina, A News. A law on traditional spelling in names and surnames has been approved in Kyrgyzstan. And how do you think do we need in Kazakhstan such law?
So I think in Kyrgyzstan it is the right thing that they are changing their surnames, and I think we in Kazakhstan we also need to do this in the same way. So I think it's good.
What about you? Do you have the suffix of "yev" in your surname?
Yeah, in my surname I don't have this suffix. My name is Abayoli, so the suffix is Oli, the name as son.
I don't think it's necessary because we've somehow become accustomed to our surnames. I don't think it's worth changing.
I think it's fine that they're rejecting them. Why? Because these are remnants of Soviet times. I believe it should be left in the past. And how will the new law work? That's great. It will be wonderful for the Turkic-speaking countries.
Since I'm an older woman, I'm used to my last name ending in "over", and that's fine with me. Well, young people already know what they want. There's now a trend among them to avoid Russian endings.
That's quite fair. Unfortunately, many surnames in Kazakhstan have these endings due to the Soviet era. We need to return to our roots. In general, I support this idea.
In general, I have a positive attitude towards this. Everything should be as people wish.
Economic and humanitarian issues faced by Afghanistan are being discussed in Tajikistan, where EU and Central Asian envoys gathered trying to find solutions. Our Tamim Bahiz brings more on that from Kabul.
The future of Afghanistan remains a key concern for regional and international actors. The 6th meeting of special representatives from Central Asia and the European Union took place in Tajikistan with a focus on security, stability, and human rights. Key topics included ongoing socio-economic challenges, human rights, particularly the rights of women and girls, and security threats in the region. The EU's Special Envoy for Afghanistan, Thomas Nicholson, met with Tajikistan's Foreign Minister, Sirajuddin Mehruddin. They stressed the urgency of addressing Afghanistan's fragile situation and finding ways to strengthen regional stability. This meeting is part of a broader effort by Central Asian states and the EU to coordinate assistance for Afghanistan and tackle regional security concerns. Previously, similar discussions have been held in cities like Tashkent and Ashgabat, underscoring the continued international engagement on Afghanistan's future. For now, all sides remain committed on finding sustainable solutions to the challenges in front of Afghanistan. Tamim Bahis, A News, Kabul, Afghanistan.
Italy began the one-year countdown to the Winter Olympics with a series of events designed to fuel enthusiasm for the Games that will be co-hosted by Milan and the alpine town of Cortina d'Ampezzo.
In Italy, the 2026 Winter Olympics will be an exciting event that focuses on sustainability and local culture. The Milano Cortina Games will use mostly exciting and short-term facilities, with 85% of the venues already ready, giving athletes and fans a new experience.
Milano Cortina 2026 will benefit from our Olympic agenda reforms by making use of existing and temporary facilities to a very high degree. 85% of all the facilities are existing, and this way the athletes of the world will benefit from an experienced organizing committee, from an excited crowd, and all the Italian love for sport.
The Games will be spread across northern Italy with beautiful views and excellent facilities, bringing athletes and viewers closer to the region's rich history and culture.
We have tried for this edition to adapt to the territory rather than make the territory adapt to the game. So that's why these games are so spread in 22,000 square kilometers, because we try to pick location where we already had existing infrastructure, but it's not only the infrastructure, it's the culture about a sport.
The Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics will be an event that brings people from all around the world together to share in the excitement of sport.
This is an event that has more to it, and this is bringing the whole world together as one community. And what we've seen in Paris in this respect speaks for the power of sport and the power of the Olympic Games.
With its focus on unity and togetherness, the Milano Cortina 2026 Games will be a true celebration of the global spirit of sport.
Around 100 vintage sports cars were on display in the Grand Palais in Paris to the delight of visitors ahead of an auction. Rare models are expected to fetch millions.
The gleaming decades-old sports cars, including Ferraris, Bugattis, and Porsches, filled the Paris Grand Palais on Wednesday ahead of an auction set to excite car enthusiasts. Around 100 vintage automobiles were showcased, captivating visitors before the highly anticipated sale. Gabriel Rapetti, the head of Bonhams Sales for France, says that when people have a passion for automobiles, it fosters unity.
We have cars that attract many people, such as Bugattis and Ferraris. Some of them do not have a fixed minimum, so they are sure to attract a lot of collectors. And so we hope and I can already tell you that there will be a lot of harsh battles among collectors who want to win the marvelous pieces we have in the Grand Palais.
Topping the auction lineup are two rare Ferrari models, a 1950 Barchetta and a 1955 Super Squalo, each valued at an estimated $4 to $6 million. A standout Bugatti is the 1928 T43 Grand Sport, expected to sell for between $1 to $1.55 million.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you for watching and stay tuned to A News.